Welcome to District 216, Santa Barbara's private, members-only, exclusive social club. Enjoy our 4 pillars of content: art, music, cannabis, and psychedelics.
Hello. Welcome to the launch event of District 216. Come on. Awesome. So I wanted to ask a question. Why are you guys here? Does anyone have a good why, a good reason? Come on. Thank you. Fair. I think that was Michael. Well, cool. We're going to be talking a lot about that a little bit later. Certainly, this is the first why is the community. You guys are amazing. Santa Barbara's the place. This is where the consciousness, wellness, psychedelics community has decided it is going to be nurtured, and an ecosystem is going to turn into an industry. And we have the ability to craft that together. So we are a container for all of you. So welcome. All right, just a real quick note before I introduce our awesome comedian to warm you all up so you don't judge me later as badly. We're going to have 2 halves of the night. First half is seated. Then we're going to get rid of the chairs, and we're going to have a non-seated portion with live music, food, networking, interactive demos. So I just wanted to tell you all a couple of things about what is in the building so you're not confused. We have a virtual reality demo that's going to be happening in this first room on the right with our friends at Interstate. They're going to be talking either our keynote, psychedelic keynote. Upstairs, our friends at Shiftwave have these amazing chairs that you got to sit in for 10 minutes and reset your whole nervous system. It's pretty fantastic. Try those out. There's 3 of them up there. There might be a waiting list, so first come, first serve. And there's a smoking lounge up there, and I mean the right kind of smoking. You might find some interesting things up there to sample. We also have 3 product companies here, 2 in the psilocybin space. We have Magic Kingdom, and we have New Tropics. And we also have Grassfed from LA. They are doing cannabis activations as well, and they're all inside near the back of the building. So New Tropics wanted me to let you all know that for the first 50 people that sign up, they're going to give you a little card and give you a discount on some of their products. So we have little goodie VIP bags for anyone that signs up. So look for the New Tropics discount card in there and other fun samples. I hope you guys enjoy. So, are you ready to laugh a little bit? All right. Well, I'm not going to do a big old, you saw him on Netflix and all this, but Noah actually has been here. Noah Copfer has been in this venue. This is LoDo Studios, which is another venture of ours. We host all sorts of cool events like this. And one of the repeat renters is this group called Don't Tell Comedy, and they do pop-up comedy events all over, including Santa Barbara, including this venue. And Noah's been here several times and been awesome. So we thought he would be perfect for our inaugural kickoff launch party. So here we go, Noah Copfer.
One more time for Jacob, everybody. Let him hear it. It's good that he clarified I'm not going to give you a whole thing saying he's been on Netflix, because I haven't. I'm just some guy. Make some noise for yourselves for coming out and being here. It's lovely to see so many wonderful faces here. This is very exciting, talking about psychedelics. I'm a big fan. I'm going to treat this like Costco. I'm here to buy in bulk and try the free samples. I'm pretty stoked. This is awesome. There's going to be a lot of smart people up here talking about very interesting things, but first, me. to say some dumb things. But no, I'm very happy to be here. Life is good. I will say about that, I love psychedelics a lot, and I'm excited because especially, recently in the more recent years, people have gotten a lot more like excited about it. People used to shit on it a lot, but now a lot of people, especially my generation, talk about psychedelics the same way that my parents talk about going to vacation to Mexico. They're like, mushrooms? Oh, you gotta. This time of year, it's beautiful. No, the kids are out of the house. Go have a good time. What, you're going to say you never did it? It's very exciting. But things are great. Life has been wonderful for me. I just adopted a pug recently. I got a little baby pug. Yeah, she's very cute. Nobody tells you when you adopt a pug, though. I just adopted a butthole. That's all I did. She smells awful, okay? And she looks worse. She's so disgusting. I pick her up, and I'm like, which way are you facing? You stink on both sides. You're so yucky. But she's adorable. I will say this, though. Pugs are arguably the scariest sounding dog, for sure. It's wild, dude. If I was alone in the woods and I heard a wolf howl, that would freak me out a little bit. But if I was in the dark surrounded by trees and I heard I'd be like, oh, what the fuck is going on? It's very scary. And I will say this. I think pugs are the closest to Vikings out of any dog ever. Let me defend myself, okay? So when I adopted this pug, the vet was like, hey, you can't let her play too hard. These short-nosed breeds of dogs don't know when to stop. Her heart will explode, and she'll die. Yep, a person I just met said that to me. And I was like, that's some cold-blooded Viking shit right there. Like, I've taken her to the dog park, and she's running around playing with other dogs. I'm like, hey, baby, you need to chill out. And she's like, I will stop when the gods take me. And I'm like, all right. Keep having fun. Do your thing. But she's very cool, man. I adopted her with my girlfriend. We've been together for like 3.5 years now, which is very fun, very exciting. Yeah, she's great. She doesn't do anything I don't like. She's the love of my life, the best person I've ever met. She does do this one thing, though. Whenever she takes medicine, whether it's like a pill or a vitamin, when she takes it and she swallows it, she throws her head back like that when she swallows it. So she's like, I don't feel good. And she goes like that. And I always watch her, and I'm like, what, you think your throat's not up for the job? All day, I watch you eat, and you fucking crush it. You do so good. But because this one's important, you got to send it back with a little wee-woo. No, chill out. Stop backseat driving your body like that. It's ridiculous. So every night, I'm laying in bed, and I roll over, and I'm watching a crane swallow a bass in front of me. And she had the balls to look at me and be like, it helps. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Okay? It doesn't. You know how to do this. You don't see me walk up to stairs nervous and then push my leg like that just to make sure I've got it handled. But she's lovely. She's fantastic. She's a decade and a half older than me. I'm a pretty princess. What's up? It's the best. She could beat me up. No, it's cool. She's the Mandalorian and I'm Baby Yoda. I'm just her little adventurer. It's really cool. Yeah. She protects me from danger and I just eat shit I'm not supposed to. It's a pretty solid deal we have going on. It's really awesome. But here's the thing. When we first started dating, I wanted to joke about the age gap between us. I thought that was fun. But I was always raised, don't fucking do that. So I didn't do it. And then she beat me to the punch. And we were getting groceries one day. And I sat down in the car. And she turned to look at me. And she was like, oh, do you need help getting buckled into your car seat? I was so mad. I couldn't look at her for the rest of the car ride. Yeah, mostly because my car seat faces the back like this. So I couldn't, would have been dangerous. But she's very cool. We've been together for a while, so we're starting to explore a little bit more sexually. She wants to visit back here. That's kind of what her 2023 focus is. She wants to see what's between my butt cheeks. And I think I will love it. But I'm a little hesitant. I will say that. I don't want my girlfriend to toss my salad for the same reason that I don't like walking my dog late at night. You're going to eat something I can't see, and that makes me nervous. You're going to be fucking around in the dark, and I'll be like, what is that? Leave it? Drop it. Yucky. It's okay. She does not like that joke. Not one of her favorites. Things are great, man. I love the new... Who's excited it's 2023? Who's excited for the new year? I love that. That is awesome. I'm not. No, it's fine. I am excited for the new year. I don't usually have a New Year's resolution. I only have one this year. My big goal I have coming up is I'm trying to pee as hard as my dad does. My man puts his back into it. I don't know what to tell you. Do you guys remember being a kid walking by your dad using the bathroom? You're like, I'm sorry, is someone pressure washing a jacuzzi in here? What is going on? It's like, you trying to carve your initials in this? We know you live here. It's fine. I've always thought about that. Like recently, I just got a bidet for my apartment. Yeah, I don't even use it for my butt. I just pee against the stream like two wizards clashing spells. Just to train to make my dad proud. But it's a good time, man. I'm very excited. My dad is very cool. My mom, she just got 2 horses recently because she's a white lady that likes to party. And she didn't tell anybody she was going to do that at all. That was not a text that she felt was important enough for our family group chat at all. I found out over Instagram. That's not a joke. My mom posted a picture of 2 horses, and she's like, I am so honored to bring Bert and Ernie home. And so I texted her, and I was like, hey, Mom, are you okay mentally? And she said, go hard or go home. Yeah, like we were college buddies going to get fucked up, and she just got 2 rideable animals. It was insane. And I went back home to visit her, and I tried to ride one of these horses, and it was very nervous when I walked up to it, and it backed away from me. And my mom looked me in my eyes, and she was like, oh, just breathe in his nose. No. No, I'm not going to do that. I've never looked at a giant, terrified animal that could kick my skeleton out of my body and been like, you know what's going to make us get along is if I just hoo-hoo really quick in his head. If I go, don't hit me, ha, ha, ha. She was like, no, I learned this in a class. If you breathe in a horse's nose, he's going to relate to you, he's going to understand you, he's going to feel your energy. And I was like, there is no way that is true at all, okay? Because I've worked in a restaurant. Do you know how many customer service situations would be diffused if that was like even remotely true? Some lady comes up to me. She's like, excuse me, we've been waiting to be sat for 45 minutes. Where have you been? And I go, come here. Okay. What? What's best case scenario? The lady looks at me and she goes, you may ride me. Like, it's not going to happen. Are we a pet crowd? Do we have pets? Yeah. Who has dogs? Nice. What about cats? Okay. They got a little nervous seeing how many dog people they were surrounded by. They were like, I don't feel safe here. That's awesome. I had an iguana growing up. It was my pet. That silence is acceptable. Yeah, for sure. Not a lot of people were fans of that. But look at me. Of course I did. Of course Chucky had a reptar. You know what I mean? Of course, if you want to know where a lizard is, ask a redhead. He knows where at least 7 of those are. I had a pet lizard, for sure. And it was wild. Did you know you're supposed to walk iguanas? You're supposed to take them on walks outside. I bought a leash for my iguana, and I walked him around. And my neighbors were not big fans of that. They didn't like I was doing that. I would walk in front of their house, and they'd be like, does he bite? And my parents would be like, oh, no, he just eats vegetables. It's not really like that. And they were like, no, your son. He's walking a lizard in front of our house. Seems like he nibbles on people. They were not stoked about that. It's very beautiful. I love Santa Barbara. I was just up here yesterday. I went to the beach yesterday during the day, which was very fun. But I also have red hair, so it's the most fucking dangerous thing I could be doing in my entire life. The sun hates me. And because here's the thing too, like I get sunburned very easily, and I'm very pale. Like you can see my veins. I got blue cheese body. I'm very yucky to look at. And when I take off my shirt at the beach, I get a lot of the same looks that like 3-legged dogs get at the dog park. I take off my shirt and people are like, oh, he wants to have fun with everybody else, but God, it makes me so sad when he does it. But it's a good time. I drove up here today, and from Los Angeles. I live in LA, and here's the thing: I drive a lot for stand-up, which is cool. But I also don't think everybody should be allowed to do it. There's too many people out here giving it a go, and they're not good at it. There's a lot of bad drivers out there. I think the moment everything went wrong with the world is the moment that we decided pedestrians have the right of way over vehicles. I think that's insane. I live in LA. The amount of times daily I'm driving a 2-ton machine and somebody walks in front of my car and they're like, my turn. I'll kill you on your birthday. I don't give a shit about you. It's awful. And there's so many dumb road signs that we have to listen to. I saw one, my favorite one, I saw it on the way up here. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Have you guys seen the sign that says speed enforced by aircraft? Hey, no, it's fucking not. What? You think it's someone's job to fly in the sky to make sure your beep beep isn't going too fast? That's overkill. That's insane. Okay? Okay, jaywalking enforced by tank. What are we talking about? That's we're not using military machines to make sure that people are booping and scooping the right speed. It's wild. I feel like this is a good time to mention I'm on medication. Is anybody else? Everybody's like, we know, we clocked it. No, I have extremely bad anxiety, and I take medication for it. One of the medications I take is called a beta blocker, which, based off the name alone, just sounds like what every girl I tried to talk to in high school was taking. Because you get it. Not big fans of me. But it's wild. It's helpful because, like, for the most part, like, I just wake up with such immense fear already. That's the first thing I feel. Like, I am slapped awake with fear, like I'm cheating on fear. Yeah, I'm happily asleep, and fear's like, who the fuck is Joy, and why do you want to feel her? Okay? Explain yourself. I'm half asleep. I'm like, I've literally never even met Joy. So what's going on? What is this? She's like, okay, let me see your phone. Okay, who's Sarah? I'm like, Sarah? I don't know a Sarah. She's like, serotonin? You're disgusting, okay? You make me sick. First and last name. I caught you. It's wild. It's tough. I do get very anxious. I think I worry quite a lot. I worry about dying, not because I'm afraid of dying, but just I worried that I've worried so much about it that when it happens, it won't be as bad as I worried it would be. Like when I get there, and my last words are going to be, like I just went on a really disappointing roller coaster. I'm going to get to the afterlife and see all my friends. They're going to be like, crazy, right? And I'm like, I mean, it was scary, but... I did martial arts growing up as a kid. Thank you so much. It was it was a cool thing I did, and when you do it, a lot of my friends in high school, they always ask me the same question. It was wild, and I would have people I don't know do this too. They would walk up to me and they'd go, "Hey, what would happen if I tried to hit you right now?" And I was like, "It's wild that that's the first sentence that you're saying to me today, is that you're going to walk up and just ask to hit me. It's wild." I used to teach martial arts for a while. Are there any teachers here? Nope. There was one person I'm going to round down and say, nobody. Being a teacher's a tough job, dude. I used to teach little kids martial arts, like 4 and 5 years old. They are just working on walking and speaking. And I'm like, do you want to know how to kill a man? And their parents are like, yes, absolutely. I would like them to know that skill. It's pretty crazy. But, life is good. I did mention that, I have red hair. You all can see. So I get sunburnt very easily, so I have to wear a lot of aloe vera. I'm sure we all know what that is. It's just that plant that we're like, heal him, and it keeps me from dying. And I wear sunscreen all the time. And the aloe vera that I use for my burns, it has this thing in it called lidocaine, which is just like a pain relieving, keeps it from hurting. But most aloe vera is a scam. It only has like 10% lidocaine in it. So I was like, I need to find something with more. So I went to Walmart, and I found a thing. They have a spray for men that stops premature ejaculation, and that shit is 25% lidocaine. So that's just better math. So I bought that, and I sprayed it on my sunburn, and the relief was so nice, I came immediately. And... It was the best false advertising I have ever had in my life. Oh man, but I am really happy to be here. This is such a beautiful place, Santa Barbara. I travel all the time for stand up. Some people are nice, some people are not, but it's the game that we play. It's been a great time. You guys are excited to be here? You guys all seem like very, very lovely people. I love that. They have weed here. That's very exciting. Also a big fan of that. I don't do well with it, but it's fun. I can always tell when I'm high after I've taken an edible because of the first thing that comes out of my mouth after I speak. The sentence is always just so ridiculous. I was hanging out with my roommates, and we have stairs, and I took an edible, and I wasn't sure if it hit yet. And I knew it hit when I ran upstairs. And they were like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "That was the most fun run upstairs I've ever had in my entire life." You guys have been so wonderful. Thank you for listening to me to do some comedy. You guys are very sweet. This has been a blast. It's a very, very lovely night. Now we have keynote speakers coming up. Ashley Walsh and Sonny Mattek from Interstate. They're going to be talking to you guys, and they're going to have their moderator, Christian, up here. So make some noise for them. Thank you guys again so much.
Okay, so, psychedelics has been a lot in the news and the zeitgeist. You have folks in the local community that are participating actively in the industry. We've got folks like Jacob that are taking a leadership position and being a visionary, trying to bring together things like cannabis and psychedelics and art and music. And it's our privilege to kick off tonight with a launch party. Very grateful to be here tonight, and we'll just get the conversation started.
Great.
Ready? So, getting started. Hang on one second. Oh yeah, readers. Interstate is leading the efforts of more efficient therapies and greater life-enhancing treatments for mental health with scientifically backed research and quality products from psychedelics, virtual reality, and neuroscience. One of the demonstration areas upstairs is an Interstate virtual reality device that we can talk a little bit about.
No, it's downstairs.
Oh, downstairs. They moved it virtually. Having signed a truly groundbreaking research agreement at the first ever venture to receive DEA approval, that's the Drug Enforcement Agency if you're not familiar, they're given approval for a psilocybin-producing mushroom grow house at a major university, I think it's in the Midwest.
Correct, yep.
Not California. And Interstate is focused on the search for the other beneficial molecules in the magic mushrooms, elucidating the entourage effect of whole mushrooms whose healing properties are potentially 10 times more effective than synthetic psilocybin. Interstate is a platform for better mental health tools with the mission to bridge the gap between wellness, science, research to create safe, accessible, and effective mental health tools with optimized positive effects. How many folks want that? Raise your hand. Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Love
you
it.
guys are good. So, there's so much to unpack in just the introduction. We need 2 or 3 hours. So we're just going to have to cancel the music and everything else. So we really want to make sure this is a conversation tonight. It's not, a diatribe, and we're not speaking at you. We're speaking with you. We want you to engage. So we won't have you stand up. But why don't we have everybody raise your hands. If you're in the room, raise your hands. If you can hear me, raise your hands. All right, now leave your hands up if you've ever tried any psychedelics. Be brave. We're all here together. Hands go down. You can be brave about that too. Nobody's hands went down? What the hell? Okay. All right. Why don't you leave your hands up if you've never had a bad trip? Oh, okay. So some hands went down. So let's just unpack that. You can put your hands down now. For better or for worse, some people, I don't know if I'm one of them, believes there's no such thing as a bad trip. There are challenging trips, and what you do with those challenges and those experiences is part of the integration process. So, I really want to thank both you guys for being here tonight. We just met recently. This is a kickoff launch event for a new community coming together around some very special topics. And you're here to share your knowledge, your experiences, and your stories. And that's brave too sometimes. So first, what we want to talk about is that there's a lot of psychedelics companies that are coming online, folks focused on new drug discovery, on advanced drug delivery systems. And I think a good place to start is what sets Interstate apart from these other companies.
Yes. Well, hi again. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Jacob, thanks for having us. It's great to see community come together. And like Christian said, it's nice to come here as a fireside chat as opposed to coming up on a pulpit and talking to you. So I appreciate the moderating and being able to discuss, because being a nascent industry like this, it is about getting to know each other, understanding the authenticity and the integrity behind why we're here, and what draws us to psychedelics and mental health specifically. So our stories kind of lead us here, but really specific about Interstate, because we were really looking to bridge this gap between wellness and science. It seemed to be that there was like this big chasm between the two, where you have research happening and macrodosing in a synthetic molecule. And then you had the wellness community with amazing stories about the different types of strains and mushrooms they're taking, the nuanced healing that was happening. And you weren't hearing a lot about the research behind the entourage effect. So for me personally, starting to look at how do we dive into that? Because the nuance effect about healing is really what leads us to individualized healing as well. How do I heal myself? What are the different ways to look at that? And from my own personal experience, I've seen how microdosing and the different types of strains could lead me to have different effects. And with that, it started looking at how do we actually start researching this? And it led us on a journey that took about a year to get to, which apparently is pretty fast in academia. And so we have actually signed the research agreement with Ohio State University, and we've started this quest, and we're still waiting for DEA approval, but should be coming soon. And as soon as we do, we'll be researching 10 different psilocybin strains of mushrooms and 2 different functional mushrooms, and looking at the different novel compounds that are in there to really look at the nuanced differences of what's happening with each one, and then how is that affecting us, and how do we actually create better medicines around that. So, thank goodness for things like the synthetic molecule and being able to actually have the process of clinical trials for that. For us, it's really about the discovery of now how do we break that into more nuanced healing. And that's what guided us towards creating Interstate.
That's pretty amazing. Do you want to talk a little bit about your mission and what the North Star is for both of you?
Yeah, really the mission behind it is bridging the gap between wellness and science. And I was guided to that through my own personal journey and the curiosity around diving into my own personal interstate. The journey started at about 15, things from Jungian psychology to astrology, and then having very different parents who, on different occasions, took us from heliotropic breath work in random hotel rooms to ayahuasca trips in Peru to DMT, and the life-changing effects, of course, that it had. And recognizing that not everybody is given these tools. Not everybody has parents like that who are taking you on these incredible journeys. And how do I start finding ways to create better mental health tools that more people have access to? And really about being a light in the world. How do I bring joy, as he was talking about earlier, like how do some people who don't seem to have the ability to find joy find more of that inner strength, the inner safety within themselves to start looking at that journey and discovering a more solid sense of themselves. And my journey took me on many different paths to that place, and really wanted to create something, a company around that. I've been a serial entrepreneur. My father and I started a mezcal company 7 years ago, and my dad was the first ever person to grow chocolate in the United States in Hawaii. So I grew up on the fields of Hawaii, tasting chocolate and understanding that food is medicine. And that journey plus seeking led me to go, how do I create this in my own personal company where I can give food as medicine and create more spiritual depth for a community around me? And led me to starting Interstate, and led me to finding Sonny, my CSO, through an incredible journey. And I'll turn it over to give her a little light on this as well.
Yeah, what's your origin story, Sonny? How did this happen? All right, origin story.
Great, yeah.
How did this happen for you?
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's such an honor to have this platform. I studied neuroscience. I got my PhD in neuroscience at Dartmouth, and I was very interested in studying emotion and affective processes, particularly as they related to affective disorder and mental illness. I spent a lot of time studying amygdala prefrontal circuitry and learning neuroimaging techniques. And then
I studied that in school too. It's pretty amazing.
Sweet. Yeah, we should chat about it more. And well, by the time I graduated, I realized.
Oh, you graduated? Oh.
I did, yeah. Yeah, somehow. But when I did, I realized that I still didn't really understand a lot about my own emotional processes. I had been studying it from this really cognitive, intellectual perspective, and here I was still kind of struggling to figure out myself. And this is where I moved to the West Coast and eventually got interested in psychedelics. Again, really approaching them as a scientist. How can I use these as tools to continue my research journey? And eventually found myself participating in psychedelic ceremonies, drinking ayahuasca. And I realized that my research question shifted, and what became the most important research question to me at that time was, how can I heal myself? And this is sort of a heuristic inquiry, very qualitative research journey of trying to figure out what's actually happening inside myself. And this took me on a really extensive journey that's been going on for a few years now.
How did you two get connected?
Actually through Sonny's sister, who is part of our other company with Kemosabe, and her brother-in-law started talking to me about his sister-in-law, who's a neuroscientist who is into psychedelics. And I was like, sorry, this sounds like the unicorn I'm looking for. Can you please introduce me? And the minute we spoke, it was kismet, made sense. And since then, it's been really, to Sonny's point about this journey inward. And I laugh because a lot of what we do is really just deep philosophical conversations around a lot of these questions. In fact, even your conversation around the bad trip. And we had a conversation about that coming up here. And we'd had some bad trips that were not pleasant, and I'm not sure they were positive. I don't know if that's, I don't know how I feel about that. So it's interesting, and all of that, being able to have that reflective point and knowing that you have the community around you like this. And this is what's really incredible to having, and again, Jacob, thank you for bringing together a social club. And we have some in LA that we're doing as well. I think it's being called Psy LA. Okay.
Ish. We got to check with Jody
and it was
or
this,
Micah.
Yes, Jody and Mike have thrown some great intellectual gatherings of bringing people together to have these deeper conversations around reflections on ourselves. And that is what ultimately I think drew Sonny and myself together, is like, how do we reflect on diving in, bringing the light out, connecting to the community, and making other people feel the same way, and guiding them to that journey themselves as well. And that's a constant work in progress, and it's an incredible journey. I mean, I feel it's one of those things like we're constantly pinching ourselves, like, wow, we're really doing this. Look at all the people we're talking to, and being able to hear, connect with other people doing the same thing is really, it is an honor.
Wow. So, and you said it's only been a year. So when did Interstate officially begin or incorporate?
I think it was July last year.
Wow.
No, sorry. July, I realize we're in 2023,
yeah.
July 2021.
Got you.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
And then, you guys are doing the startup thing, and you're doing psychedelics, and you're doing research, and you're doing kind of drug discovery-ish, and you're doing VR. And I think somebody smarter than me said you should only do 2 risky things at once. Anything else you want to add here?
Yes. Well, I was going through a divorce at the time.
Oh,
and,
nice.
have 2 kids under 5, so there's that also.
Full plate.
Yeah, it was definitely a interesting choice to start it, because it was probably one of the hardest choices I've ever had. I knew what I was taking on, having started other companies. I understand the entrepreneurial, roller coaster that happens. But ultimately, it was such a deep purpose that I knew I had to do it. And it was sort of like somebody pulling you into, the deep sea, going like, you can swim, you can do it. And you're like, I don't know if I want to. There's a lot out there. And yet, ultimately doing it has been probably one of the more fulfilling things I've ever done, in finding Sonny to have that venture together, and then being able to find and create healing products. I've got an incredible advisory board of coming together with people from neurosurgeons to principal scientists at other academic universities, and their guiding voices, and it's what actually led us to starting our virtual reality experience. We were talking about the onboarding. I have a lot of Disney advisory members, and
Pixar as well, right?
yes, yeah. And their conversation is always like the onboarding of people into the experience. And so one of the conversations, how do you onboard people into their inner state if they're afraid of talking about mental health? If it feels religious or spiritual, how do we actually start talking about it in a way that feels accessible? So what could we do? And Bruce Vaughan, one of my advisors, started Dreamscape, and Walter Parks and Bruce Vaughan and Steven Spielberg started this as really, the movement into virtual reality. And they discovered that virtual reality is really this incredible empathy tool. And so can we create something that creates empathy, shifts hearts and minds, and starts actually engaging people into potentially the drugless psilocybin microdose? Oh, it's not that bad, it's not that scary. So we came at it from a narrative perspective, creating experience, and then afterwards said, well, we want to make sure we're creating quality, safe, and effective tools. So we need to do some science around this. We need to actually start seeing, does this work, and what is it doing? And that was the wonderful part of bringing Sonny in, is that she then guided our experiments. And I'll let Sonny talk about that, of what she did and kind of what our amazing results ended up.
Yeah, so we had people come in to try our VR build and measured their brain activity before and after experiencing the VR journey using EEG. Has anybody ever had an EEG taken? Yeah. So you put like this kind of swim cap on, and it measures the electrical activity of your brain, and you can see what kind of frequency ranges are increasing or decreasing. We also looked at the entropy of the brain signal and how that changed. If you follow some of the psychedelic literature, entropy is a big topic in terms of how it shifts people's physiology. So yeah, and we found some pretty significant results even in a pretty small sample. And we're working on that paper now. So what we found is that one of the major findings, more significant findings, was that it increased alpha frequency activity in the brain, which is similar to what happens if you're doing yoga nidra or different meditative states. It's kind of this relaxed, non-active brain state that people are shifting into. And we also found that it decreases entropy in the brain, which is a sort of coherent state. It creates a coherence of information and is associated with integration of information across different brain regions. So this is giving us some information about how to inform people what's going to happen to their brain if they try it and what kind of state they can expect to get into.
Great. So I want to come back to the purpose part, because I think the why District216 exists, why do people use psychedelics, why is the time now? I'd really love to know, Sonny, more a little bit from you about why you wanted to join Ashley on this journey. It's not an easy decision to join a startup. There's a lot of hardships. Psychedelics isn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world if you look at the regulatory framework, and not to mention people think you are kind of out there sometimes. So why did you decide to do this, and what's your purpose inside of Interstate? What are you trying to achieve?
Oh, I've been so transformed by psychedelics. I've been so blessed. I have so much gratitude for the opportunities I've received to work on myself and to heal myself, that it seemed like that was the thing most worth studying, is how psychedelics work and how can I make the same journey I had accessible to others. And I was looking to do this before I met Ashley. I had committed my heart to that, and then she just appeared and was doing the exact
So
thing.
2 unicorns is what's going
Yes,
on. Okay,
yes,
perfect.
exactly.
And Ashley, a tough year and all the personal trials and tribulations, and you're a veteran entrepreneur, you're not your first rodeo. What's the real driving purpose? Because it sounds like it's something other than filling the bank account.
Well, I would definitely say looking at 2 young kids and looking at the state of mental health, thinking about their livelihood, their friends' livelihood, and also just the community's livelihood. Obviously, we all went through, COVID, and during that, I experienced a lot of people, in fact, other people going through divorce who didn't have the tools I had, and some who had full mental breakdowns. And yet my internal life through that process was still pretty incredible. I felt a lot of gratitude. I had amazing community. And I wondered at that point, like, how do I make sure that my kids grow up feeling the way I do, where there was that groundedness and the centeredness in their inner state to be able to feel, and no matter the worst chaos possible, to feel that commitment to themselves and feel joy. And so through that, I was like, I have to find a way to do that and deliver it to the rest of the people out there and my kids.
Nice. Where is Interstate today in terms of the maturation of the business? It's been a short runway, but where is it with the research? Where is it with potential commercialization? Where are you guys with the VR? Just kind of an update.
Yeah, I mean, like the rest of the state of research right now in terms of psychedelics, we are in a research phase. And until we actually see those phase 3 trials come through and see efficacy, we're not going to have rescheduling. So there's that runway of waiting for the research to come through. And I actually think it's a beautiful thing, because I think in cannabis, we've sort of lost some of the research element of it. But with psychedelics, there's such a full force ahead with the research happening. So for us, it's really waiting for that. Our runway is probably about a year until the research is done and finalized. And once that happens, depending on scheduling, there may be different pathways to productization. And in the interim, we wanted to focus on what we call the container being the intention. We all talk about it now, like, how do we shift psychedelics and the conversation around this from what happened in the 60s to what's happening now? And a lot of it is about setting intention, then about when you consume it, the set and setting, and then the end part of it, which is integration. How do we look at this container and actually start building tools for each part of this? Obviously, we're looking at the consumption part of it, the different types of nutraceuticals and medicine that we can create. And then on the other sides of it, how do we create the intention part? How do we create the integration part? Through virtual reality, we're seeing that we can create this integration component of it, potentially even the intention setting. So for us, that's our focus right now, is how do we build those other container components to make sure this is very safe. People are entering into this prepped, ready, go on the deep dive, not necessarily have a bad trip, or if they do, they know how to integrate it. Because at the end of that, if you don't know how, I'll
re-traumatize yourself.
Well, I had that experience. I did DMT, and I experienced my own death. And I experienced my own death for the next year in dreams to come of feeling myself release. And I look back at that and go, I should have had better integration. I should have had therapy happening at that time, because it was really scary. Again, thankfully, I knew kind of what I was doing. But I could imagine if I didn't, the constant traumatizing of that is really intense. So building integration tools is pretty critical.
Sure. And then on the research side, as you get into phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trials, maybe it'd be biased if everyone was a member of District 216, but as you're looking for candidates, how do people get involved in clinical trials if they want to participate?
That part, we're not at that. We're not doing
we can't do this next week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Johns Hopkins, I'm sure some of these other, there's a lot of great news articles right now, and psychedelic alpha is one of them. Obviously Johns Hopkins, looking to them. I'm sure there's always things happening. I think there's an app called Qualified Citizen. Quantified Citizen. Yeah. I know that they have an app dedicated to people being able to actually participate in clinical trials.
Excellent. And then in terms of where the company is right now, maybe Sonny, talk a little bit about what people might experience if they go inside and put on the VR.
Right, yeah, so it's an 8.5-minute journey that resembles a psilocybin journey. It takes you both outward and inward. You go to outer space and you go inward inside your brain. So and in terms of participating in our experiments, if you want to come get your brain measured up in Eugene, Oregon, which is where I live, that door is open.
Does anybody want to get their brains measured and participate?
Yeah.
Got a few. Great. So where will Interstate be headed tomorrow? We're kind of like current state. Where are you headed? And talk a little bit about the timelines, the next year, 5 years.
Sure.
What's the aspiration?
Again, research is our number one. Closer? There we go. Okay. Timeline for research, we're looking at about a year before we get to the end results of knowing what those novel compounds are in those 10 different psilocybin strains. And then from there, our VR product, we're looking at, we really want to dive into creating this succinct understanding around integration. So our focus is really looking at that. And the next step is actually doing this in a neurosurgeon's facilities. He's got a brain spa called Neurovella, and we'll be taking in there and doing perioperative VR experiences to start seeing if people going into surgery can have a more relaxed state utilizing things like virtual reality. So that's our next step, and we're really excited about that because if that shows efficacy, there's a lot that can be done there.
And what's the time horizon for that? That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, that's happening in the next couple of weeks.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So if I'm having brain surgery, I can then participate?
Yes.
So I guess one of the things that we talked about previously, and I want to make sure we hit on it, we got pretty personal and I think pretty authentic, so thank you for sharing and being brave. The mission for you guys inside of Interstate about being a light in the world, what does that mean to you both? And maybe Sonny, you start.
What does it mean to be a light in the world? I feel like it's all about going inward and dropping into the deepest wounds within myself. And that is where I find the deepest insight and wisdom and can mine the light out from within myself and offer it to others.
Yeah, that was a good statement on that one. And being the light in the world to me is meaning that as much as possible that I am helping to create positive experiences, whether that be in personal interactions, in a community collective way, making sure that what I'm doing is always of highest integrity. So for me, that's really the focus for being the light.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. I'm curious about how does working with a research program at a higher ed institution like Ohio State, go Buckeyes, I don't know why the UC system's not involved, but getting that program to even happen in the first place, a little bit of that story would be pretty interesting, whatever you can share. And then what are the direct benefits to Interstate in having that relationship?
It's definitely a circuitous path at times to get to those partnerships. I think a lot of it was timing and connecting at the right point and finding the right people, and we had a lobbyist helping us through those connections and being able to really look at what new systems are coming through. I mean, Ohio State University just started their psychedelic education 6 months prior to us talking to them. So they were looking for research partners at that point.
Another unicorn. There's lots of unicorns in the story.
There is. That is the thing about startups and entrepreneurialism that you have to recognize is that it is about timing. And sometimes you have to let flow happen. It was definitely not happening fast enough for me, but again, knowing the system and knowing how this works now, it was really fast. And having people on the team, we have an advisory member who is provost at Alabama, who is helping to direct this and understanding contracts and connections. And it really is a dance, making sure that you understand how those systems work and that bureaucracy is at play. But being patient with that, I think, is a critical component too.
Yeah, it's amazing also just to work with the experts there. We have an amazing mycologist on our team and a geneticist, and I'm coming from neuroscience, so those are not my fields. And to be on such a fabulous interdisciplinary team, I think that's where the future of psychedelic science is. How can we look at these compounds from all these different perspectives and really tie them together into a larger picture?
Really interesting. And Since you're collaborating with the university, is there shared IP? Do you guys own it all after the research, or how does that work?
I'm going to leave that one to being
Okay,
in our
fair enough.
contract.
Fair enough. So, you folks are working with the mushrooms. It sounds like there's several varieties or cultivars that you're working with. 10, was that right? Mm-hmm. 10 different ones. What's the status on what's growing? Like, what's happening with the growing?
Not yet. We got to wait for the DEA approval, which again, that's bureaucracy as well. So
Okay.
it's a process through that. And once it happens, we will be doing a sort of a public affairs campaign around it to discuss it, because it is big news, and being able to dive in a little bit further and being able to have a news cycle around it.
And you, for sure, will be one of the first and only companies that have that approval when it's granted.
DEA, well, definitely the only DEA approval at a major university for a grow house at this
Yeah,
point.
I'm familiar with some labs that have gotten the right to do production of Schedule 1 substances, but it's very limited and not very many of them.
Yeah.
And then can you maybe talk about how whatever you end up doing with the mushrooms might intersect with what you're doing with the virtual reality, or are those always going to be on separate paths?
Definitely just in terms of looking at, again, this container and looking at better mental health tools. It's really looking at how do you create a toolkit for people to come and access and give them understanding around that container of how to actually do good healing within this safe space. Setting your intentions, setting the set and setting, having the integration. It doesn't always mean doing psychedelics. It also just means doing the inner work. And how do you access that? And then, what are the tools and the ways in which you can do that to better provide access to your inner state? So for us, it's really just a toolkit that we're building out for people to utilize.
That's pretty great. Sonny, what's some of the research prompts or the additional research that you're looking to pursue?
Oh my gosh, a lot. I have so many research questions. I'm very curious about measurement, and in psychology, it's really hard to measure things. So if you just think about it for a little bit, like, how do we measure depression? How do we measure anxiety? How do we get that number of how anxious someone is, how depressed someone is, et cetera, et cetera? How do we measure what's happening in a psychedelic journey? This is a question that has interested me for a very long time, in coming up with new measurement tools that really can assess where people are at in their journey and what the arc of the journey is and how we can map out that journey. So one of my research collaborators who's on our advisory board, Dr. Susie Ross, has studied life transformation and has detailed some of these transformation cycles that happen over the course of a lifetime with major life events, which a psychedelic journey is just one example of a major life event that someone could have. So I'm working with her to develop new measurement tools. And this is an ongoing, deep research question that I have a lot of passion about.
Well, and Sonny, I'd love for you to sort of expand upon the three aspects of what good measurement would be focused on in the paper that you wrote, talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the problems that I see in psychological measurement is kind of the shallowness at which the mind is measured. And so often people are just filling out forms, and there's no effort to use the things we know about psychology to make people feel safe enough to actually divulge the information about their inner process. And so I see ethics as a key part of clean psychological measurement. It's actually, you can't separate ethics and science in psychology. And so the paper that I've written on this topic focuses on compassion and openness and reverence for the data. And if the researcher can bring these elements, which are ethics, to the research project, then there can be an interaction between the researcher and the participant that actually allows information about that person's inner sacred process to come to the surface and for us to actually take accurate measurements about what's happening.
That sounds critical. It sounds like there's probably so much confusion and loss of information, or people being afraid to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
afraid to even participate in research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So participation, that's a great segue. So thank you guys for being so patient during the chat. We're going to move to some Q&A. I've got some questions I can keep rolling with, but I'd rather get some questions from the audience. Are you guys game to participate? Are you here to participate? Raise your hand if you're, you're out there. Okay. Does anybody have a question they want to stand up and share? We think we can get it right out of the audience if you want. Go ahead, please.
On that last topic you were just discussing, how is measurement currently conducted for these types of things? Is it mostly user report, kind of sentiment and feeling? Is there cortisol or some type of brain chemical measurement, combination of the two? I'd just love to hear the other side of where it exists today and tie that into what you just said.
So the question's focused on what's currently going on in measurement and having Sonny talk a little about that.
Yeah, so for clinical outcomes of psychiatry, the gold standard is self-report measures or a clinician's assessment of based on what that person is saying their experience is. There are studies that take biomarkers, but the biomarkers are all over the place. They're very messy measurements. And so if you, for example, in studies that look at how is a depressed person's brain different than a non-depressed person's brain, there's so much overlap that even if there's a significant difference along a certain marker, it's too noisy for us to just measure that thing and know for sure what's happening in that person's experience. And so we still have to ask them subjectively, how do you feel? And that's the gold standard right now.
And that's all over the map.
Yeah.
But that's also all over the map, and part of the problem is that people treat it as if there's no noise in that data.
Right, and there's a lot.
Yeah, there's
lot of noise.
there's no method for estimating the noise in those data.
Another question? Anybody have a hand up? Yep, please go ahead. And just, there you go, he's got a mic.
Probably don't need this, but I'm just wondering, is Interstate taking any angel investment, or have you, or are you? And is there a valuation on the company?
Yes, we are, and we can talk to you later if you're interested, or you can email us. I'm sure you'll connect us. Great. Yes is the answer.
So angel investments taken and open dialogue on new investment opportunities. Any other questions out there? Yeah, please, go ahead. Thank you. Go ahead. Right? Yeah, shout. Sorry, unless they get a mic over there. Here it comes.
First of all, thanks for what you do. I've been around this work for a long time. How available, I think one of the most important pieces that you fortunately came to beyond consumption is integration. And that takes sometimes a really long time to integrate what the experience has been. How available will this VR system that you've been working with be for those who aren't necessarily coming from the consumption path to you? Is the VR something that can be used more broadly?
Yes, it definitely can. Right now, we're trying to figure out the right pathway, and some of the conversations actually putting it into integration centers and figuring out how can we connect this to most people. To be honest, Oculus is kind of a mess in the VR community, and it's an interesting one because they don't want to approach psychedelics. So there is some off-putting aspects to that. So figuring out, I know Trip App is doing amazing stuff as well, and just trying to find, to that point, the right distribution pathway. But yes, we want to make it accessible. And thank you.
Great question. Another question on this side? Anybody over here? Yep.
So on that note, how do you ensure that the pricing is affordable over time? Because as we know, the pharmaceutical industry has had a long bad inertia around not making it accessible for a lot of people.
In regards to the pharmaceutical pathway, it's definitely about how do we figure out policy measures around this that potentially allow access to creating nutraceuticals and being able to look for pathways that do allow for better price tags, because that is definitely something on our minds that we talk a lot about, because right now with the service centers, the price tags are going to be high. So that's all in the conversation. We don't necessarily have an answer right now, but it's definitely on forefront of our mind, because that wellness needs to extend further than people who can afford it.
Another question or two? There's a hand going. Go ahead, please, if you can.
Oh,
if an issue here is integration, when what's missing for me is hearing you talk about being involved with therapists, people that are doing psychedelic assisted therapy seem to be missing. You didn't mention therapies at all, but isn't that part of the picture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of therapists on our scientific advisory board, and we've been having discussions about. Part of the discussion that we've been having is what experiences people are having right now as they, this particular therapist has clients who have tried to gain access to psychedelics through the underground wellness community, and how can we? It's a fine line, because she feels like she can't give them information about psychedelics because it's illegal, and that compromises her licensure and things like that. And at the same time, it's unethical not to tell them about these options because they're so profoundly healing. So these are conversations we're having with therapists on our board, absolutely. And another person who we work with is designing a facilitator training program. And so we're actively in conversations about what those training programs look like in terms of how these facilitators can help people integrate, as there's just a wide array of interpretations of what integration means and how long it should last and what the process is before and after. So we're definitely having these conversations with a wide range of people, including therapists. And I think ultimately, though, one of the things I'm hearing from therapists is that the one-on-one work that they do, it's so time-intensive, so energy-intensive, the whole burden can't fall on the therapists. There needs to be other tools that help people, because people can't be in therapy every day. It's just, it's not affordable for the client, and it's not possible for the therapist either, just in terms of their energy. So these are definitely ongoing conversations we're having with therapists and people who are involved in the facilitator training.
Yeah, so therapists are definitely key to a lot of these programs, and not just Interstate, but others. We'll bring it home with a couple more questions. Yeah, please, go ahead.
On that note, it's funny, as a spiritual psychologist, I'm taking people on that inner road, and you can only do talk therapy really for so long. And in my experience, I've found that we get to a certain point and I need something experiential. I need something to be able to offer that's experiential. And I've been waiting for you guys to come into my life. And so I'm also wondering, part of that process is going to be the dealing with people, getting to some core issues, starting that way in, and depending on how much they've built up to get in. Then they get to have the experience, and then we need it on the other side to be able to integrate. So the question becomes, do you have to see a therapist first? Do you have to be somebody that, gets passed on? Can someone just walk in and go, I'm looking for an experience? How there's going to be that, that course. But I'm so happy to have you guys.
Yep, there we go. Thank you for that, because and I'd love to talk later, because as Sonny mentioned, how you're talking to your clients about this, we'd really appreciate insight off the book, because people are asking desperately, how do we give this to our clients without breaking or not breaking ethical codes and legal issues? So it's a major conversation right now.
Yeah, and I would say, just from my own personal experience, I found it to be critical to have not necessarily a therapist, but some sort of mentorship or counselor, some relationship that's trusted on both sides of that experience.
So I think that's probably a great place to bring it home. It's so nice to have everybody here. Honestly, thank you for being here tonight and let's have this conversation. Thank you to Sonny and Ashley for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
We'll talk to you more afterward.
So one more time for Interstate, Ashley and Sonny. They're awesome. Really appreciate Christian Gray here from Atlas Consulting also moderating that talk. Christian is one of a handful of really key people here that filled this room tonight with amazing people from San Francisco and Santa Cruz. We have got people out from Vegas. We got people from San Diego, LA. This isn't just Santa Barbara. So thank you to Christian. Thank you to Kyle Daley, Mike Wald. A lot of business development went into this night, and I'm meeting all sorts of new people because of it. So I appreciate everyone for showing up. So I'm going to explain what the hell District 216 is. But first, some context. You guys might have seen this whole psychedelics thing in the LA Times, the New York Times, NPR. It's all over the place. Does that mean that it's mainstream? That's a good question. But it's even been here in our own Santa Barbara Independent. They were nice enough to feature this, and it shows that there's a lot of interest. Even in a small community, we have an incredible Pacifica grad program. We have UCSB, we have City College. There's a lot of talent and skills coming out of these places. And there's a lot of questions being asked around how psychedelics are to be used in our new chapter of humanity as we're entering in. So one thing I wanted to note is about a week and a half ago, I looked at the weather report. The 10-day forecast. We had sun for like 9 out of 10 days and then rain today. So I just want to acknowledge the weather. Thanks for being out in the heaters. And also to say, we've all been through a lot of acts of God lately. Maybe 5 years ago, some of you were here for the Thomas Fire, the mudslides. We've obviously been through a global pandemic and more storms recently. So when we have the ability to reflect on that, the thing for me that was always lacking was connection and community. And so that's really the theme of this whole venture and this night. So thank you for being here. So I'm a creator, I'm a thinker, I'm an artist, I'm a maker. I'm a psychonaut, I'm an innovator. I'm a music lover, I'm a teacher, I'm a citizen of Earth. Where are the places for me to regularly and confidentially go to expand, network, play, learn, share, and evolve? I'm bored with bars, empty conversations, and lack of connection. That's my problem slide. Let's go to the solution. So this must be the place. District 216, this is some of the things that in a few bullets, but I'm really interested in hearing from all of you. I mean, to come out to something, not knowing what it is, kind of, maybe, but being here and experiencing this. Kate back there in the awesome pink wig has been helping with this event. Thank you so much, Kate. And she said, point me out, I have that awesome wig on, and have people go tell her what you want from a place like this, from a community like this, from a venture like this. So I want to hear. But these are some of our assumptions. So let's rock and roll. The late Alan Kozlowski performed here. I think it was his last performance before he passed. But yeah, he was right here on the stage. We had it kind of flipped, but we had a psychedelic light show that night. It was pretty sweet. Liquid light show. Maybe we'll do more of that. So before I get into the actual nuts and bolts of District 216, I just wanted to give some context of like, why the hell should I do this? Who am I to do this? And why do I think I have permission to do this? Because with Mike and Sean, we've created Oniricom. It's been an agency here for 21 years, almost 22 years. Can't believe how old I am. We created teams. I mean, that was our old space. That's the after. Then we came over here. I don't know if you've been in the kitchen, but that's what it looks like now. You know, that's that conference room. You go do that VR experience in there, but now it's got a cool tiki wall. That room was my office. Now it looks like that. So we like to create. We like the set and setting part here, and having space is really critical. Having creative space and open space is important. The three of us, not only have we built teams and an agency, we've spun out technology solutions from this. We had a company called Storywall that was a screen technology that fed content in. It was all over the world with Jack Johnson on the road. It's at the Santa Barbara Bowl, actually. You can still see it up there on the terrace. We've done a lot of shit. You know, art shows, record labels, Solutions for Dreamers compilation album series. We had all these nonprofits associated to them, including the United Nations World Food Program on the last one. And one of my favorite magic moments was our Solutions for Dreamers Festival here at the Arlington. We sold it out. It was a benefit for Heal the Ocean. We had 35 community partners and nonprofits lining the promenade of the Arlington. And we brought together Jack Johnson and Michael Franti for the first time to perform. It was a pretty awesome night. So taking in all of those cues of having permission from this community, we even tried to put together a business district called the Lagoon District. Some people didn't like it. That's okay. You got to try things and break things and disrupt. Before the cannabis adult use law came into pass in California, we put on some symposiums, including different talks about what the cannabis industry would be like in California. So we've had an interest in this space for quite a while. We've been working with cannabis brands as an agency since 2015. Put on events here and kind of stress tested this space. And then the pandemic hit. And a big empty shell of a building with no humans, with a lot of overhead, what to do. So we figured out nonprofits didn't have a place to raise their money. We ended up having 35 gala events virtually here in 14 months at what is now LoDo Studios, spun out of the pandemic, adapt or die moments, and they were able to raise more money than the gala events because they had lower overhead. We've had comedy events and other types of things here, and so now this space can be used very easily for District 216. I'm very excited about that. So what is it exactly? So our mission is really to be a thriving community of psychedelics pioneers, to exchange ideas, explore health innovations, author new policies, and grow the industry. A good friend here, Ben Tauber, is former CEO of Essalon up in Big Sur. And he shared a story with me that the law in Oregon that passed for psilocybin legalization was authored by a think tank at Essalon. And he said, the new geography is Santa Barbara. This is what we need here. So with that said, and standing on the shoulders of giants, we'd like to continue in that way. My friend Christian put this together a year ago? Your 16-year-old son put this together, slave labor, a year ago. Cool. This is the psychedelic landscape of a year ago. It wouldn't fit on the slide anymore. I mean, 80% of those companies didn't exist 2 years ago. I mean, Interstate just came out in 2021. This landscape is thriving and exploding, and we want to help to guide and vet and make sure that we're aligning with the right groups and that those groups are doing the right things. Thinking about Native American populations and reciprocity and benefit honoring and how to give back in ways that are paramount to their business models, not just as a warm glow effect. Our vision is to advance the full legalization and normalization of psychedelics use in our daily lives worldwide. And some of the values and feelings here, one I'd like to just focus on is the second value, yes and. That's something that my late father was a source of for me, yes and. Anytime there was a venture or an idea, it was always, okay, how are we going to make it the best it can be? And I want to make sure that this community has that ability, some feedback and some listening and some empathy around how we can make these ideas fly the best way they can. On the back of your programs, you'll see a manifesto, and I wrote that, dedicated it to my dad, and it's really the cornerstone of what we're all about. So take that with you and read it, not here tonight, because you're going to probably not be able to read in a couple hours, hopefully. Everything that you're experiencing, we're calling edutainment. Hopefully you learned something and you're going to be entertained, especially once Jackson takes the stage. All of these events are based around our 4 pillars of content, so art, music, cannabis, and psychedelics. And we've already done events, art events, music events, cannabis. We had 20 brands here a couple of Decembers ago and had a really good time. And last year with Dr. Ramy Droz, who many of you know, he was our first test lecture. He did a Ketamine 101 event here last May. And because that went so well and it was well received, we decided, okay, this is a go. And now, I don't know, 8 months later, we're here. So thank you. So our memberships are really composed of 4 main benefits. This is a Marquee event. You're experiencing that. We're going to have 6 of those in 2023 and 10 of those in 2024. We'll see from there. The second is our district house. This is going to be a come and go as you please on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursday evenings. And Wednesdays we're going to dedicate to Founder Night. Tuesdays and Thursdays are open to all members. And this is a place to exchange ideas and connect and co-create. Speaking of that, we're going to have co-created evenings where you can actually bring your own groups here and produce events with our members. And we're hoping that this space can really facilitate a lot of the other ideas that I know are brewing in this room right now. And then last but not least, we're going to extend our community online and get this content filmed, edited with resources, and build conversations globally for people that aren't lucky enough to be here in Santa Barbara with us. Some of the co-created evenings, I mean, really the sky's the limit, but panels and workshops, long table infused dinners, sound baths and breath work. I can't wait to hear what you guys come up with, honestly. The way that the pricing structure for this is we're going to have guests that are able to be invited by members or founders, and those will be variable ticket pricing. And our memberships are $1,500 a year, and that's going to include everything I just mentioned, and we're offering a 20% discount for the next 2 weeks for people that sign up. Also, we have founders. If anybody's interested in taking a stake in District216 and coming on as an early investment partner, I'd love to chat with you later in the night so you can find me and learn all about that. Big shout out to Jody Green, our attorney who turned around documents in like 2 weeks. So we actually have all that done. I'm very excited. Thank you, Jody, wherever you are. The way we're going to use these funds, obviously we've got an amazing staff that we need to keep going, producing content and all the technology to run it. And then we're going to program different art, speakers, workshops, musicians, panels, build additional infrastructure. That wall back there, we have 8 artists that are going to be doing murals. We have a bunch of other fun things in the works. And last but not least, some advocacy, legal engagement, policy making, and industry reports. I think this is going to be one of the most interesting areas to develop. And I'm excited to connect in with experts much smarter than me on these areas. And the vision for the future, I mean, this is going to be the first location of hopefully many. We're already connected in with retreats, journey spaces, conferences, and offsite events. In March, there's a psychedelics conference in LA put on by Psychedelics Today called Convergence. They've already said, hey, we're going to give all your members a discount. So that's one example of how this ecosystem is going to continue to grow and thrive. So I'm really glad you're all here. I hope you enjoy the music, the food. We have some really cool demos inside. We have a photo booth in the back with Steven. He's going to take some cool psychedelic looking photos, so find him. And if you want to talk about becoming a member or founder, feel free to find me. I'll be roaming about. But otherwise, let's hear it for Jackson Gillies in just a minute as we set the stage. Thank you, guys. Oh, yeah. Hold on. Most importantly, there's an amazing mushroom-themed, not psychedelic mushroom, but functional and delicious mushroom-themed meal. So please help yourself. Culinary Confidential has come up and produced an incredible array of offerings. So I hope you enjoy that, too. So have fun, and we're just getting started. Thank you.
They've never gone this long without a kill.